Wilson Markley, Cabinet Member for the Public Realm. Please note that this meeting will be recorded for broadcast on the internet after the meeting has taken place and can be viewed online at the Council's YouTube website. Generally, the public gallery is not filmed, but by entering the meeting room and using the public seating area, you are consenting to being filmed. This evening, there are 3 decisions to be taken. One by Councillor McQuillan, Cabinet Member for Community Safety and Partnerships, and I will be taking 2 decisions. The last of this evening's decisions contains a confidential annex. This means I will need to resolve to exclude the public and press by virtue of paragraph 3 information relating to the financial or business affairs of the authority of Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, but will only move into private session if I decide to discuss the contents of the annex or there are questions from councillors that require the disclosure of information contained within the annex. Should this happen, I will ask those not entitled to be present to leave the meeting and the recording will also cease. In addition to myself and any other councillors who have decided to join the meeting, a number of senior officers, together with legal, service-based colleagues and democratic services colleagues, are also in attendance, either online or at Civic. Can I ask anyone who has joined us online to switch off their microphone and camera when not speaking, please? And for those in the room, please ensure you turn your microphone on when speaking so that you're captured for the recording. A supply of the papers for this meeting is available on the modern.gov pages of the Council's website. I've received notification that 2 members of the public have registered to speak on item 1, Prevention of Domestic Abuse Strategy 2026 to 28. I have not been advised in advance that any councillors have registered to speak, but for any councillors who have joined the meeting, please let me know if you wish to speak at the relevant time. Can I remind councillors and members of the public that any contributions should not exceed 3 minutes, and of speaking about the merits of the decision, not to serve as a formal question and answer session. The decision sheet will be published on the modern.gov pages of the Council's website tomorrow, Wednesday, the 25th of February 2026. I will now pass on to you, Councillor McQuillan, to take your item.
Thank you, Councillor Wilton Markley. Before I take my item, there's been a minor amendment to the decision 1.2 of the report. The decision will now read as follows: that the authority be delegated to the Director of Adult Services to make any minor typographical or consequential amendments and to oversee the delivery of the strategy on behalf of Milton Keynes City Council in consultation with the DASPB. So, my item is the Prevention of the Domestic Abuse Strategy 25-28. I think everybody in the room would have read the report. I don't know if any officers would like to add anything to the report at all. Anybody? Would you like to talk about the report at all?
Thank you, Councillor McQuillan. I think that the report is more or less self-explanatory about the strategy and also includes the strategy document as an annex. It's also worth noting that there is a delivery plan that sits within the Domestic Abuse Operational Group to deliver against the commitments underneath the strategic priorities.
Thank you very much. We have 2 public speakers who registered to speak. Would you like to go first, Jones Swan? Is that okay?
Hello. So my name is Joan Swan. I'm a member of Milton Keynes Fawcett Society Group. And one of our interests in Milton Keynes Fawcett is on violence against women and girls, or the prevention thereof, including domestic abuse. So Jane and I have both been involved in consultations about the new domestic abuse strategy and its needs assessment. So first of all, I'd like to welcome the strategy. I'm really pleased to see it's complete and ready to go. And there are a number of positive aspects I wanted to draw attention to. I'll just mention a few. First of all, it's clearly written, it's well structured. Everything that you'd expect to see in this strategy is in place. I welcome the inclusion of the priority on safe accommodation, which I think is vital. And also the exploration of DAHA accreditation, Domestic Abuse Housing Alliance. This will be beneficial, I think, to the strategy and to the Council's work in general. I'm pleased to see in reference to online abuse, albeit small, it's helpful for the strategy to recognise the significance of online abuse. There are also a few limitations because of time constraints. I want to focus just on one of these that I think is particularly important, and that's what I would call openness and public accountability. Milton Keynes City Council sets great store on this. You see it in the Council Plan Principle 10, talking about ensuring good governance and transparent decision-making. The strategy itself notes that governance and structures are in place to ensure accountability and transparency. Here, a lot of the action is taking place behind closed doors. So the motivations for the priorities aren't explicitly evidence-based, and there are no explicit targets for priorities with a schedule or at least a ranking. So we, citizens, have to take this on trust. And in that context, it's easy to make ambitious promises because nobody can follow you up on them. A lot hangs on the action plan, which I think will prioritise, guide and evaluate activity, but it's not in the public domain. We don't even know what the format is. Alongside this, and perhaps more importantly, there's the reporting structure. So the DASPB provides quarterly reports to the MK Together Safeguarding Partnership Board. This is a private meeting, not open to members of the public. This therefore means that there's an opportunity for citizens to attend meetings in which the work of the DASPB is discussed. Decision-making that's transparent goes out of the window, and I find this quite extraordinary. So in terms of the merits of the decision that you're making, Councillor McQuillan, I'd give qualified support to the strategy itself. There's a lot that's good. There are some limitations, but I have strong concerns about the implementation of the strategy in a context in which nothing is open to public scrutiny, and I'd welcome further reconsideration of this. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to pass you over to Roz, who's going to talk about that. But I do appreciate our officers have worked really, really hard on this, and I do appreciate the positive feedback, and we will take into consideration how private you seem to, well, how private it can be. But I'll let Roz talk about it, if that's okay.
Sorry.
So Tony might want to add some other comments, but just in terms of the openness, the domestic abuse partnership generally appears on the agenda in the health and adult social care scrutiny at least every 18 months to 2 years. So they bring the partnership board to the scrutiny committee. So that is obviously a public meeting. And then there is an annual review of the community safety partnership through the community and partnership scrutiny committee. So there is the opportunity for the public to kind of see both those strategies and the work of the partnership and be part of the scrutiny of their activities.
Thank you. I would just like to add to that, we're really grateful for the feedback that you've brought today. It's really pleasing to see how well engaged with the strategy has been by local interest groups and provider groups, as well as residents. As Councillor McQuillan says, we will definitely take the feedback around transparency of reporting on board, although as Roz has identified, there are public reporting mechanisms that are already built into our governance structures. It is worth noting that I would say the performance framework around this is still under development, so there will be more work to come out of this. And also that any decisions relating to sort of commissioning or expenditure over the contract procedurals threshold will be brought through a delegated decision in due course when their time comes to commission those services.
I'm afraid not a delegated decision, sorry. Jane, would you like to speak next? Thank you.
Okay, yep. So I'm Jane Wild and I'm speaking as a Fawcett member and a White Ribbon ambassador, and I organise the White Ribbon Vigil every year. So yes, I welcome the domestic abuse strategy. There's a lot of positive things in there, as Joan was saying. However, since its implementation, the government has published the National Strategy for Ending Violence Against Women and Girls in December. And that changes the context in which we're operating, and it raises the expectations. Now, this authority does not have a standalone strategy for ending VOG. It sits within the safety strategy under serious violence, I believe. And given the scale and the gendered drivers and the systemic nature of these harms, I really question whether that is sufficient. because domestic abuse does not exist in isolation, as we know. It intersects with coercive control, sexual violence, stalking, exploitation, and the wider normalisation of misogyny. These harms share perpetrators, risk factors, and profound consequences, especially for children growing up in abusive households. A fragmented response is unlikely to deliver real change. So my points here are on the merits on the strategy are first, that those who operationalise this strategy should formally align the delivery plans with the pillars of the national VORG strategy. And that's mapping provision, identifying the gaps and embedding those priorities into the commissioning, workforce training and safeguarding. Second, that those responsible for monitoring and evaluation take a whole system approach. Protecting women and girls requires coordinated action across policing, health, housing, education, child services, as we know, but also the voluntary and community sector, the public sector. So working to shared outcomes and shared accountability is quite important. And prevention must also be overarching and visible and societal. If we're to be serious about reducing violence, we must openly address attitudes, behaviours and norms. And we must measure what matters. That's prevalence, repeat victimisation, timeliness of response, safe accommodation and outcomes for the children affected. We should publish them. We should report them regularly and scrutinise them openly. What gets measured and made visible gets prioritised and considered when budgets and funding are allocated. The scale of violence against women and girls demands coherence, coordination and courage. And we have now a domestic abuse strategy, and now we must ensure it sits within the comprehensive whole system framework to truly end violence against women and girls. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. You just hit your 3-minute mark as well, so good job. So I don't know if Tony would like to come in a little bit, but we believe that we have addressed this in the strategy. It might not be a complete standalone strategy, but it is a very comprehensive one within the strategy. I don't know if you wanted to add anything, Tony.
I think it's worth noting that there is a wider context, and you are right about this. And that was one of the reasons why the Domestic Abuse Strategic Partnership Board was taken under the banner of MK Together, the Community Safety Partnership, as well as the VORG work stream, so that there could be that kind of whole systems approach to it. So you're right, this is one element of that, and there is another strand of that also feeds in.
Thank you. Thank you for your contributions. We really appreciate you coming in. I'm going to move on to if there's any councillors that wish to speak. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi there. Is there any concrete development on plans for an additional residential facility? Or is it just aspirational at the moment?
Do you mean a refuge? A women's
That
refuge?
kind of thing,
Yes, there is. I spoke to the lead officer responsible for this morning. The land has been transferred to the housing provider while ground has not yet been broken and the service contract has not yet been commissioned. It is in progress. It is still a priority.
So that's great, positive news. The other question was if we are looking beyond the taxi companies, beyond Milton Keynes, to persuade them to sign up to the White Ribbon campaign, because I think we've got sign up within Milton Keynes companies, or those registered in Milton Keynes, but not necessarily for those beyond our borders.
As you can probably appreciate, that's a really tricky one. I don't necessarily think it's to do with this strategy, but I'm happy to sit down with Mick, the cabinet member for licensing, and see if he can write to other licensing companies and see if that's something that they can implement in their councils. But we don't have any jurisdiction over other councils, of course. But it is something that I'm happy to pass over to Mick and see if he can, Councillor Legg, and see if he can write to other authorities, see if that's a thing that we could try and encourage them to do. But we can't promise anything to do with that. Does anybody wish to add anything to this at all? Anything? Fabulous. I'm happy to take this decision. I think it's a really great piece of work. I'm really proud of the work that all of our officers have put into it. Yeah, I think it's really great. Thank you so much for working so hard, and I'm happy to take the decision. Thank you. I will now pass you back over to Councillor Wilson-Markley for her decision.
Thank you very much, Councillor McQuillan. If anyone would like to leave and not talk about a dog fouling PSPO, now is the time to do it. So before I take this item, similarly to Councillor McQuillan, I have a slight amendment to decision 1.1 of the report, and it will now read as follows: that the criteria for making a public space protection order in respect of dog fouling, as set out in section 59, paragraph 2 and paragraph 3 of the Antisocial Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act 2014 be met. So this decision is to, we have a dog fouling PSPO that was 3 years, could be extended by 3 years. Those 3 years will be up soon. So we had a public consultation to see if people liked it. Not many people responded, but those that did liked it. So this decision is to reinstate that with some minor changes. Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Not really. I mean, there is a second part to the decision, which will be to, as part of the consultation, and anecdotally, parish councils and other landowners have found it difficult to have the for an exploration for the council to look at PSPOs of further dog control on smaller patches of areas, and so we're looking at putting a system in place so that can be made easier.
Yes, sorry. Thank you for expanding on that. And it's something that we hear a lot. Well, I hear a lot as a councillor. I don't believe I have any members of the public who wish to speak. Councillor Cannon, would you like to speak?
Thank you. Is there actually very much enforcement going on?
I believe so. Sean?
Okay, yeah, we have a private contractor that are authorised by Milton Keynes City Council to issue fixed penalty notices on our behalf. Dog fouling, historically, in my experience, I've been doing this for 20 plus years, absolute nightmare to try and find. There's a lot of evidence of dog fouling. There's not a lot of, very difficult to catch people who are not doing it. So yes, we are out there doing stuff, but the results are limited because of the small window of opportunity to catch offenders.
Thank you. I am very happy to make this decision. So that's great. Thank you. And then I will need to, for item 3, which is the award of contracts for residential electric vehicle charging infrastructure, I'll need to exclude public and press by virtue of paragraph 3. If I decide to discuss the contents of the annex, which I will not. This is around the awarding of a contract for delivery of electric vehicle charging for residential vehicle charging infrastructure. There's been several rounds. This is for 3 and 4. I believe there's 2 outstanding lots where we still need to identify the bidder. Karen, would you like to go into a bit more detail on that?
Yeah, so we tendered for all 4 lots for the residential EV charging, but we only got 1 successful bidder for 2 of the lots. So the 2 lots that were not successful, we are re-tendering in March. As soon as the calling period for this decision is made, essentially, we will go out to tender for those 2 lots, and we're confident we'll get another bidder.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I have no public questions. Do I have any councillor questions? Councillor Cannon?
Yeah, the 2 successful lots cover a wide range of different areas, but not the areas in the unsuccessful lots. And so I assume that's what these are. The March process will try and cover to cover the whole city.
Yes. Sorry, Karen, you answer.
So yes, that is correct. Yes. So each of the lots had a number of localities within it. So the lots that are going back out to tender will have, you know, a series of localities. So yeah, in the end, we cover the whole of Milton Keynes other than central Milton Keynes.
Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Karen? I feel like without having to close session, we've covered it off as vaguely as possible. Good. And I'm very happy to make the decision. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your time. Let me go to the end of the script. I now close the meeting. It wasn't an end of the script. The time is, I cannot see the time, 18:21.